Hello guys, today we're gonna analyze the seats for the next election, 2026, the midterm election, as you can see. And as uh, um, as you can see, the Democrats has 34 seats at start, and the Republicans has 31. This is clearly a favorite. The Republicans are heavily favored to win the election, to win more, even more Senate seats probably, because when you see this map, you think the Democrats are lot disadvantaged in many places here. We're gonna fill firstly, we're gonna fill the safe Democratic seats. You mean Oregon, for example. You mean Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, New Hampshire, Illinois, Minnesota, and Colorado, New Mexico. Those are the safe Democratic seats. If nothing goes wrong, that will eventually go Democratic. But that's a kind of interesting thing here. New Jersey, I select as a Democratic safe seat, but in a huge Republican night, which we don't expect at all, this could fall into Republican hands or at least be competitive. That's why I'm gonna put at lean Democratic because it's not a huge Republican seat. The Republicans are not going to win New Jersey, but probably they can make it competitive for the next election. And that's probably what the Republicans want to do with New Jersey. They want to make New Jersey more competitive, and they are doing that. Biden won by 15 or 17 points, and Kamala only won by about 5 points or something. And New Jersey is clearly becoming more Republican. Was it so Trump? Was it Trump? Was it more than that? Because Jack Ciattarelli in 2021 in the gubernatorial race, he barely lost New Jersey. He lost by 3 points or something. So the trajectory is clear, and clearly the Republicans are making progress in not only in New Jersey but in the Democratic deep blue states. New Mexico is another one. I'm gonna put at safe blue because considering the situation, I think that one is gonna go blue quite heavily as well. Virginia, I'm gonna put as safe blue because it's a seat that is gonna go Democratic. It's 10. The trends are quite clear in Virginia, the opposite of New Jersey. It's going to go Democratic. The suburbs around Fairfax County, around Washington, D.C., they're becoming more developed and they're getting more people there. Loudoun County is one of the counties just outside of Washington, D.C., to the suburbs just to the west of Fairfax. It's one of the counties that has the biggest population growth in the last few years, and I think that's the most important part here. Virginia is going to go blue, is solidly becoming a more blue state. Biden won by 10. Harris won by 5, even though she had a huge underperformance of Biden, and I think that's the main point here. Then for the Republicans, safe seats: Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, South Carolina, and Alaska. Those are the safe Republican seats. You see a lot. Republicans are already at 47 seats, so they just need 3 to get the majority. Because when there's a 50-50 tie, as we've seen in one big beautiful bill, Vice President J.D. Vance breaks the tie, as you know. That's the rule of the Senate because the President of the Senate is the Vice President, and when there's a 50-50 tie, the Vice President breaks the tie. Then you go to Texas. I know Colin Allred said he might go for another race in Texas against the John Corbin. I think it's the incumbent for the Republican Party there. I don't know if he's going to go for re-election, but that's the incumbent at least. And I think Texas will ultimately go red. I mean, not by a safe margin probably, just below 10 points, but it's probably going to go red. Why am I saying this? Yes, you can see that the Texas, at least the Democrats were saying Texas is going to go Democratic. You see all the trends, all the people are going to go to Texas, and the retirees from the north are going to go to Texas and going to make Texas more blue. Yes, that's what the Democrats said. But even though all the attempts, and Biden just lost it by I think 6 points or 5.5 points in Texas in 2020, Harris lost everything that the Democrats were attempting to have in Texas throughout the course of the last years. I mean, Texas were swinging blue even when Clinton lost it in 2016. It went blue. And the point is, Harris lost everything that the Democrats have been working on. And I think that's the reason Texas is now a more red state than it was in the past. I think it's not all Trump. I think the Republicans really gained a loss in the last few years because of inflation, because of the housing market, and I mean, this is not all 100% Democrats' fault, but this is really what the average Joe, as you call it, has in their day-to-day life. I mean, Florida is another one. Florida is now a safe red seat. I mean, you saw Florida in 2000 when Bush v. Gore, about 300 votes or something, and that was so competitive. And now Florida is considerably a red state. Trump won by 13 points. DeSantis won by 18, I think, the re-election for the governor in 2022, and that is really Florida is now a red state. I mean, you can tell you everything that you want, but Florida is now a considerably a red state. And they are like that. I mean, and now you have the Republicans just need one to get the majority. We have probably Georgia is a blue state, as you know. Raphael Warnock, I think it's Raphael Warnock or John Ossoff. I think it's one of those. I don't know which one is setting for re-election, but it's either Raphael Warnock or John Ossoff. I'm not sure about which one. And I think the Republicans might win Iowa, probably by a lean margin, but they're gonna win Iowa. And with that, the Republicans are at 50. So the Republicans got the majority, and they don't even need to win Ohio. They don't even need to win North Carolina and Maine. And in Maine, they have an incumbent, which is Susan Collins. She's a moderate, of course. She's a moderate Republican, part of the Haley coalition, probably. And she's probably going to be reelected. But in a big blue wave, I think that Maine could end up being blue. This would be a first pickup for the Democrats, if you may, but I think that will be ultimately a pickup for the Democrats. Michigan, of course, will go blue. I know Michigan is trending red and blue at the same time because you saw in 2016 the Trump won Michigan by just 10,000 votes, and then Biden won it by 150,000. And Trump won it again by just shy of 100,000 votes margin, and that was quite an impressive. For me, it was the most impressive win for Trump in 2024. It was really Michigan because almost 100,000 votes in a state that Biden won by 150,000. It was probably youth people. They were unhappy with the Israel-Hamas conflict and probably they didn't vote because of that. And sucks for Democrats, but it's the truth. And I think if the Democrats really wanted to connect with youth people, I'm not a fan personally myself of Zoran Mandani, but he's doing a great job in New York motivating young people. I don't care if you like him or not, but at least he motivated young people to go to the polls and flood the polls basically in New York primary. And that was part of the reason why he won it. It's because the youth people voted massively for him, and even the poll today showed that he has a 66% share of the vote with youth people 18 to 30 years old. And that's really the part the Democratic Party has been missing those guys because of the Israel-Hamas conflict, because of the cost of living. They go out of university and then they barely can find a job. And that's really part of the problem of the Democratic Party right now. They don't speak to the working people. And I know we have figures like Bernie Sanders, whether you like him or not, he has some reason on what he's saying, because the Democrats are not fighting for the working class people. That's what he's saying basically, and we're only caring about the millionaires and the multi-millionaires. Personally, I don't agree with him in terms of I don't agree with his positions, but I do think he's right in that point. And many of those blue-collar workers, they gone for Trump, and I think that's will happen in the future if the Democrats don't change their people, their leadership. They need a new generation of leadership, and probably Zoran Mandani is part of that. We saw today also an announcement of a candidacy for the Minneapolis, I think, mayoral race. A progressive guy like Zoran Mandani trying to be successful, and those guys are winning the youth people, and that is part of the reason they're winning, because they're speaking about the difficulties the youth people is going through. I mean, I don't agree with their solutions, but they at least are speaking, and they can be populist, you can call it whatever you want, but they're motivating voters, they're turnouting voters, and the other guys simply cannot do that. I mean, that's the truth here. And then you have 3 seats: Ohio, North Carolina, and Georgia. I mean, the two out of 3 are Republican, North Carolina and Ohio, and Georgia is of course Democratic. And I think Georgia will ultimately go Democratic by a very small margin, because this is a midterm year. we have the President Trump is probably exhausted by then. Medicare cuts. You have, whether you agree or not, that thing is going to harm President Trump. But that's the main point here. You can have a huge Republican night, but this is a Democratic seat. This is not a pickup. Should be an incumbent, and he won basically by 80,000 votes, I think, in 2020 in a runoff, of course. And this could go to a runoff, but I think ultimately it's going to go Democratic. I mean, Democrats are they're happier with turnout in voters next year than Republicans because of everything. We have President Trump, and when you have a midterm year, the presidency is a little bit more tired, and that will probably ultimately fall to a Democratic win in Georgia. North Carolina and Ohio. North Carolina is a very interesting state because Trump won by 3.5 points in 2024, as you can see here in the presidency. He won by around 183,000, but the Governor Roy Cooper was re-elected by around 14 points. Why? Because of the controversy between the Mark Robinson candidacy for the gubernatorial race in North Carolina. This is a very interesting scenario because if Roy Cooper decides to run for North Carolina Senate next year, there's probably going to be a win for the Democratic Party. We don't know if that's going to happen, but even if it doesn't happen, North Carolina is a state that's been quite in the Democrat Party really wants to flip North Carolina, and this will be probably one of the flips I see here happening. It's probably the only flip apart from Maine and North Carolina. Probably are the only two flips that I'm gonna see here. Maine because of I mean Susan Collins is a moderate and she's probably gonna get Democratic voters to vote for her. But even with that, I think the Democrats they're gonna have a huge year next year because of all the controversy during Trump's presidency. I could be very wrong about this, but I don't think so. And in Ohio, I think it will go to Republican. Probably not in a huge margin, but I think it will ultimately go to a Republican. This will be 51-49 Senate. This will be a Republican majority. And you cannot have a Democratic majority. Even if you want, they need to flip Ohio. Okay, they need to flip Ohio. Let's imagine they can. This is not my scenario. My scenario was previous. Now I'm just imagining a Democratic majority. And they need to flip Iowa. They need to flip Ohio and Iowa, or Texas. Can you flip Texas with a 14 points? And can you flip Iowa with a 13 points? I mean, it's not easy. I know we saw the last poll in Iowa showing Harris ahead. The Seltzer poll, that was just fake, basically. She made that poll probably because it was not real. I mean, Harris lost by 13. And I don't see a way on which the Democrats win Iowa. I don't see a way on which the Democrats win Texas because Beto O'Rourke was very close to doing so in 2018, and he lost by about almost 3 points. And it was against Ted Cruz, which is nobody likes him, by the way. And even against Ted Cruz, the Democrats lost Texas. And I don't think that will change in about 2 years because that Trump won by 14. Can you have a 14-point swing? Yes, you can, but it's very hard. I mean, very, very hard, and especially the Hispanic communities. You see here around Texas, around Laredo, just right here, Webb County, and El Paso County, which is El Paso, of course, and Hidalgo County, just right here. You see those communities are shifting right. I don't know why, but they're shifting right, and that's part of the reason of Trump is doing much better, and the Republican Party is doing much better with Latino voters, especially down there in Texas and also in Florida. That's why Florida now is a deeply red state, and it was a toss-up state before 2020. And I think that's the true part. I don't see the Democrats getting a majority. I think it's very, very hard. Trump needs to do a terrible job. I mean, a really terrible job to lose Iowa and Texas or either of one of those. I mean, it's very hard. And I think this will go a Republican majority. We don't know by how much. A best case scenario for the Republicans will be they gain Georgia, they stay with North Carolina, they stay of course with Ohio, and they stay with Michigan, they stay with Iowa, and they stay with Maine, and probably gonna pick up New Jersey. It's the best case scenario. I mean, you see here they can get up to 56 seats. It's easier that this scenario happens than the other one happens for the Democratic Party. This is how hard the scenario is for the Democrats in the Senate. In the House, it's much easier, but we're going to talk about the House in a video later. So thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.